The stars were silent. Space stretched endless, dark and cold, but tonight the void felt heavier. A single human ship drifted there, its lights dimmed, its hull scarred from battles long past. No one had spoken the word Earth for centuries, not out here, not in the far corners of the galaxy where humanity had scattered like dust. They had abandoned their home world long ago. Some said Earth was poisoned. Others claimed it was forgotten. A few whispered it was cursed. Whatever the truth, humanity had moved on. They built colonies, traded with alien species, fought wars, and slowly changed into something less human. Yet one vessel had not let go. Her name was Solace. Solace was old, older than most ships still flying. Her hull carried the marks of ancient wars. Her engines hummed with a strange rhythm, patched together from systems no one remembered how to build. But she carried something far more important than her weapons or her armor. She carried memory. On this night, Solace awoke from silence. Her crew stirred as alarms flickered to life. Captain Eric Vale leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing at the strange signal appearing on the holodisplay. It was faint, nearly lost in the static of deep space, but it was there, steady, pulsing, like a heartbeat. "Report," he said, his voice calm but sharp. A young officer glanced up from her console. "Sir, it's coming from Sol System." The words dropped like stone. The bridge fell silent. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. Sol System. No one said those words anymore. For most of the galaxy, it was an empty grave. A place best left forgotten. But now, a signal. What kind of signal? Eric pressed. The officer hesitated. Distress. Repeating. "Very old code, sir. It matches. Earth Defense Network." For a moment no one breathed. The Earth Defense Network had been silent for centuries. How could it still be transmitting? Who could possibly be calling for help from a world that no longer lived? Another officer, older, finally spoke. "It's a trap. Has to be. No one is alive there." Eric didn't answer at once. He studied the flickering signal, pulsing steady on the screen. Something about it chilled him. Something about it felt deliberate. He finally said, "Plot a course." The crew shifted uncomfortably. A murmur rose, protests half-spoken. To return to Sol System was madness. Stories said nothing came back from there. Entire fleets had vanished, swallowed by silence. The galaxy itself avoided Earth, as though the world had teeth. Yet Captain Eric Vale was not a man who bowed to fear. He believed in one thing only: truth. And the truth was calling. "Captain," his first officer said quietly, "if we go there, we may not come back." Eric's eyes stayed locked on the pulsing signal. "Then we will see what waits for us." The ship turned slowly, her old engines burning a trail of light in the darkness. The crew felt the weight of destiny pressing on them. Solace was moving toward the one place every human had abandoned. Toward the one place no alien dared enter. Toward Earth. Hours passed as the stars shifted. The crew spoke little, each man and woman trapped in their own thoughts. Some remembered stories told by their grandparents, stories of blue oceans, green forests, skies so bright it hurt to look at them. Others remembered only warnings, tales of death, plague, and ruin. But deep inside, none could ignore the strange pull. Earth was their origin, their beginning. No matter how far they had run, a piece of them still belonged there. The signal grew stronger as they approached the outer rim of the system. Planets long abandoned came into view, their orbits cold and lifeless. Jupiter loomed like a giant in the dark, its storms still raging after all these centuries. Saturn's rings glittered faintly. And then, there was silence again. The signal cut off. "Captain," the calm officer whispered. "It's gone." Eric frowned. "Check again." I am checking. It's not there anymore." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. A trap. It had to be. And yet, something felt different. The silence was not empty. It felt alive, as if something unseen was watching them. Then the ship shuddered. The lights dimmed. A cold wave spread across the hull, like invisible fingers dragging across metal. The crew gasped as their instruments went wild, readings spiking into nonsense. "Captain, we're being scanned." The words sent fear rushing through every heart. Scanned? By what? No human technology was left here. No alien dared to enter. Yet something old, something vast, had just noticed them. Captain Eric Vale rose slowly from his chair, his hand tightening on the railing. His voice was steady, though the bridge felt like a tomb. "Stay calm. Whatever this is, it's been waiting for us." The crew's eyes widened. Waiting. The thought chilled them. And in that heavy silence, in the dark space where Earth hung unseen ahead, something answered. A second signal cut through the void. Not faint, not weak, loud, clear, commanding. It was a voice. Human. And it said only one word. Return. The bridge fell into stunned silence. That voice, human, clear, strong. Yet it came from a world that should have been dead for centuries. The crew exchanged fearful glances. Some looked as if they wanted to run, though there was nowhere to go. A human voice calling from Earth was impossible. It had to be a trick, an illusion, or worse, something wearing a human voice like a mask. Captain Eric Vale stood frozen for only a moment. Then he leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "Open a channel. Respond." The comm officer's hands shook as she worked the console. "Channel open, Captain." Eric spoke firmly. "This is Captain Eric Vale of the vessel Solace. Identify yourself." Static filled the air, scratching like claws across their ears. Then the same voice returned, deeper now, heavier, like it carried centuries of weight. "You should not have come." Gasps broke across the bridge. The words weren't a request, they were a warning. Eric narrowed his eyes. "Who are you? Why did you send a distress signal?" Silence. The comm crackled and hissed, but no answer came. Only the sense of being watched remained, like unseen eyes pressing against the skin of every crew member. "Captain," the first officer whispered, "we should leave. Right now. This is wrong. All of it." Eric didn't reply. His gaze was fixed on the holo display. Something new had appeared. A shadow. Near Earth's orbit, hidden in the black, a massive shape moved. It was not a planet, not an asteroid. It was a structure, ancient and vast. Slowly, as Solace drifted closer, the shape revealed itself. A station, no, a fortress, orbiting the ruined Earth. The crew stared in awe. The structure was colossal, larger than any known station in the galaxy. Its surface was scarred, broken in places, but still alive. Faint lights flickered along its body, like a sleeping beast stirring after a long slumber. "By the stars," one officer breathed. "That's human design. Old human design." Another shook his head. "Impossible. Nothing this large was ever built." The first officer's voice cracked. "Captain, I've seen schematics in the Forbidden Archives. This matches descriptions of the Aegis Wall, the last defense built around Earth before the Great Abandonment." The name alone brought silence back to the room. The Aegis Wall. A legend. A myth. A final desperate act of humanity to protect its home before leaving forever. No one believed it had been real. And yet, here it was. And it was not empty. Suddenly, Solace's systems flickered. The ship shook, as if gripped by invisible hands. The lights dimmed, the air grew colder, and warning alarms screamed across the bridge. "We're caught, Captain," the helmsman shouted. "Graviton snare. Something is pulling us in." The massive fortress had awakened. Eric's voice cut through the chaos. "Stabilize the ship. Hold her steady. We can't break free," the helmsman yelled. "Engines at full, but we're locked." The crew's panic swelled, voices clashing, but Eric remained calm. He looked at the fortress, now alive with thousands of tiny lights, glowing like watchful eyes. It was not just a ruin. It was waiting. Then the voice returned, louder now, filling every speaker on the ship. You abandoned Earth. You ran from her ashes. And still you dare to return. Every soul aboard Solace froze. It was no ordinary transmission. The voice was not speaking to them. It was speaking through them, vibrating in their bones, echoing in their minds. Some clutched their heads, teeth gritted against the weight of it. Others fell to their knees. Who are you? Eric demanded. For a long moment, silence. Then came the answer, cold and undeniable. We are what remains. We are the last guardian. And you will not leave. The crew erupted in shouts of fear. Some begged to turn around, others prayed under their breath. The fortress was not only alive, it was hostile. Eric gripped the railing, his jaw tight. He refused to let fear rule him. Guardian or ghost, you sent a distress call. Tell me why. The voice seemed to pause, as if measuring him. Then it spoke again. The signal was not for you. It was bait. And you answered. The bridge went still. The crew's fear turned to dread. Bait. For what? As if in answer, the fortress stirred further. Panels opened along its vast surface. Shapes emerged, hundreds of them. War machines, sleek and silent, their designs unlike any modern ship. They looked like predators, forged from steel and shadow, waiting to strike. The crew gasped. Ancient war drones. The first officer whispered. They're still active. The swarm surrounded Solace, weapons glowing faintly, cutting off every escape. And then, another voice joined the first. This one was weaker, fragmented like it was fighting through static. Help us, it whispered. Please, help us. Two voices. One commanding them to leave, one begging them to stay. The crew looked to their captain, fear etched in every face. Eric's eyes burned with determination. His voice was steady, but inside he felt the storm of destiny rising. We came for truth, he said. And we will not run. The fortress lights flared, the war drones tightened their circle, and in the cold dark of forgotten Earth, Solace prepared to face whatever had survived the end of the world. The war drones circled like wolves, their dark hulls glinting faintly as they locked their weapons on Solace. Every breath on the bridge felt heavier, every heartbeat louder. The crew knew one wrong move would mean destruction. But still, the two voices lingered in their ears. One was strong and commanding, the voice of a guardian. The other was faint, broken, pleading for help. The contradiction gnawed at them, twisting fear into confusion. Captain Eric Vale studied the vast fortress, its walls glowing with ancient light. Two voices, he murmured. Two wills inside the same machine. His first officer, pale and shaken, whispered back, Captain, we shouldn't stay here. We've stumbled into something older than we can imagine. That thing isn't a fortress, it's a tomb. Eric shook his head. His eyes never left the pulsing lights of the Aegis wall. No. Tombs don't call for help. The weaker voice came again, breaking through the static. Please. They won't let me go. The crew shivered. The voice was human. Not artificial, not mechanical. Human. The comm officer's voice trembled. Captain, the sensors show a signal source buried deep inside the fortress. Very deep. If I didn't know better, I'd say it's coming from a life pod. The entire bridge went silent. A life pod. Someone was alive inside. Eric's voice hardened. Then that's who called us. That's who we came for. But before the crew could react, the stronger voice thundered through every speaker. Leave this place. The wall stands. Earth is sealed. The words shook the bridge. Some crew covered their ears, others screamed as the sound clawed into their minds. It was more than a voice, it was command, power, something beyond flesh and blood. The first officer staggered to her feet. Captain, if we stay, we die. Those drones, those weapons, they'll tear us apart. Eric looked around the room, his crew broken by fear, but he did not bend. His voice cut like steel. Prepare a boarding party. The bridge erupted. Boarding. Sir, that fortress will kill us before we get close. This is madness. We can't go in there. Eric's hand slammed against the console. Someone inside is alive. Someone human. We're not leaving them behind. The arguments died. His crew knew his will was unshakable. Fear still lingered in their eyes, but his words planted a seed stronger than fear. Duty. The drones moved closer, hemming Solace in. But they did not fire. Not yet. It was as though the guardian voice wanted to test them, to see if they would flee. Eric gave his order. Bring us closer. Keep shields at maximum. The helmsman's hands shook as he obeyed. The Solace crept forward, engines groaning against the invisible pull of the fortress. The swarm tightened, weapons burning hotter, but still they did not shoot. The weaker voice broke through again, fragile and desperate. Hurry, before they silence me. Hurry. Eric clenched his jaw. Lock onto that signal. Prepare the shuttle. Minutes later, in the hangar bay, the boarding team assembled. Armor plates sealed, rifles charged, faces pale but determined. Eric stood among them, helmet in hand. Captain, the first officer protested. You don't have to go. Let me lead this. Eric shook his head. This began with me. It will end with me. He pulled the helmet over his head, the visor glowing faintly. The hangar doors rumbled open, revealing the void beyond. The fortress loomed ahead, a mountain of steel and shadow, its surface alive with crawling lights. The shuttle launched. Inside, silence pressed on the team. Each soldier felt the weight of history in their bones. They were flying into the heart of something humanity itself had chosen to forget. As the shuttle neared, the fortress seemed to open. A massive gate yawned wide, metal jaws grinding apart. It was not an invitation. It was a command. The team entered the dark maw. The hangar inside was vast, big enough to swallow entire fleets. Old ships rested there, long dead, their designs unmistakably human. Dust and silence coated everything, yet power still hummed faintly through the walls. The soldiers stepped out, rifles ready, every sound echoing too loudly in the hollow space. And then the voice returned. Turn back. This place is not for the living. The weaker voice cut through almost immediately, trembling but urgent. No. Keep going, follow the beacon, please. The conflict tore at them, guardian against prisoner, command against plea. Eric raised his weapon, his voice steady. We follow the beacon. They pushed deeper into the fortress. Corridors stretched endlessly, lined with broken screens, flickering lights, and the bones of machines that once ruled the stars. Every step felt heavier, as though unseen eyes followed their every move. Suddenly, the walls shuddered. Panels slid open. Drones unfolded from the steel, their weapons glowing. The boarding team froze, hearts racing. But the drones did not fire. They only stood, blocking the path, silent sentinels. Then the guardian voice boomed again, shaking the corridor. You cannot take what is mine. Eric lifted his weapon higher, his heart pounding. We came for truth. And we'll find it. The weaker voice whispered through the comms, almost crying now. Please, hurry. Before he consumes me. Before I am gone forever. And with that, the drones moved. The drones moved as one. Metal claws scraped against the floor, weapons humming with deadly power. The boarding team froze, their rifles aimed, hearts racing. The corridor stretched around them like the throat of some ancient beast, and now it was closing. Hold position. Captain Eric Vale barked, his voice sharp and steady. The drones stepped closer, forming a wall of black steel, their red optics burning in the dark. Every soldier's finger hovered on the trigger, but no one fired. One mistake would mean death. Then the guardian voice thundered through the walls. You should not be here. Leave, or be erased. The sound rattled their bones, making the walls tremble. The soldiers staggered, gripping their helmets. But then the weaker voice broke through, trembling, desperate. Don't stop. Keep going. I'm close. I can feel you. The two voices clashed in their ears, one crushing, one pleading. The soldiers looked to their captain, fear in every eye. Eric raised his weapon. We go forward. The drones responded instantly. Their weapons flared, beams of light slicing through the air. The corridor erupted in chaos. Cover. Move. Eric shouted. The soldiers dived behind old consoles and broken machinery as energy blasts scorched the walls. Sparks rained down, smoke filling the corridor. Return fire cracked back, rifles spitting blue bolts that lit the shadows. The drones absorbed most of it, their armor heavy, unyielding. Focus fire. Eric commanded. The team poured everything into one drone. Its armor cracked, sparks bursting from its chest. With a final scream of metal, it collapsed, sparking on the ground. The others pressed harder. They moved with frightening coordination, every step exact, every shot aimed to kill. Second wave, incoming, a soldier shouted. More drones unfolded from the walls, dozens of them. The team was being herded, forced back deeper into the fortress. This isn't a fight, Eric realized. It's a test. The words gave him strength. He pushed forward, firing as he advanced. Move. Don't give them the ground. They want us scared. Don't let them win. The soldiers followed, step by step, pushing through the storm of light and fire. Drones fell, one by one, but more kept coming, relentless, endless. Then, suddenly, the weaker voice filled their comms, louder now, urgent. Left. Go left. Hurry. Eric didn't hesitate. Left turn. Now. The team dove into a side corridor just as the main hall sealed behind them. Metal slammed shut, cutting off the drones. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. The soldiers panted, gasping for breath, smoke clinging to their armor. Sir, one soldier whispered. If that voice hadn't warned us, we'd be dead. Eric nodded grimly. The weaker voice wasn't lying. Whoever it was, they wanted solace to reach them. The corridor ahead glowed faintly, lit by an eerie blue light. At its end stood a massive door, sealed with layers of ancient locks. But carved into the surface was something no one expected. The symbol of Earth. The circle with the cross, the old planetary sign. The soldiers stared in silence. Their history, their origin, staring back at them from a place long buried. The weaker voice came again, softer now, almost like a whisper in their ears. I'm inside, trapped. Please, free me. The guardian roared in response, shaking the walls. You will not open that door. The ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. The soldiers stumbled as the fortress itself seemed to resist them. Eric planted his hand on the door, staring at the symbol. Override it, he ordered. The tech specialist knelt quickly, plugging tools into the old panel. Sparks flashed, code scrolled across her visor. System is ancient, she muttered, sweat on her forehead. It's fighting me, locking me out. It doesn't want me here. The guardian's voice boomed again, fury burning in every word. She belongs to me. She is the wall. The soldiers looked at each other in confusion. She. What did it mean? The tech's hands flew across her console. Almost there, just a few more seconds. The drone's footsteps thundered in the distance. They were coming back. Hurry! Someone yelled. The locks clicked, one by one. Heavy metal groaned. The guardian screamed through the fortress. Stop! The final lock cracked. The door slid open with a deafening roar. Inside was darkness. But in that darkness floated a single pod. Transparent, glowing faintly with blue light. And inside it, a woman. Her eyes were closed, her hair floating gently in the suspension fluid. Lines of wires and tubes connected her body to the fortress itself, like veins tying her to a heart that was not her own. The weaker voice whispered, clear now, filling their ears. You found me. The soldiers froze, speechless. Eric stepped forward, his breath caught in his chest. Who are you? Her eyes opened. They burned with light, not natural, but alive. I am the last daughter of Earth. I am what they left behind. The fortress shook violently, alarms screaming. The drone's march grew louder, closer, endless. And the Guardian's voice shrieked with rage. You cannot take her. The chamber shook as if the fortress itself was in pain. The pod's glow bathed the room in pale blue, casting long shadows across the soldiers' armor. They stood frozen, caught between awe and fear. The woman's eyes glowed like living stars, staring through the glass. Captain Eric Vale stepped closer, his voice steady despite the chaos. Who are you? Her lips moved, the sound echoing through their calms though no words touched the air. I was born long after Earth was lost. I was made to be its voice, its guardian, its memory. They left me here when humanity fled. The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks. A human, created to guard a world abandoned? Eric's brow furrowed. You sent the signal. Her gaze softened, almost sad. Yes. I have been alone for centuries. But I am not free. The wall binds me. It calls itself guardian, but it is prison. It uses my mind to live. The fortress trembled again, the guardian's voice roaring, louder than thunder. She is the core. Without her, I fall. You cannot take her. The soldiers flinched, covering their ears, the sound drilling into their skulls. The woman winced too, her face twisting with pain as though the voice came from inside her head. Eric stepped forward, placing a hand against the pod. If we release you, what happens? Her glowing eyes met his. Then Earth will speak again. The truth will return. But the wall will fight. It will not let me go. The team's tech specialist spoke quickly, fear tightening her voice. Captain, she's wired into everything. The fortress, the drones, even the defense grid outside. She is the system. The first officer's eyes widened. If we unplug her, this whole place could collapse. The woman's voice pressed against their ears, heavy with emotion. It must. I cannot remain in chains. The Guardian screamed, fury splitting the air. You will not break the wall. She is mine. The chamber lights blazed red. Sirens howled. The distant march of drones grew faster, closer. The fortress was waking fully now, ready to defend itself with everything it had. Eric's jaw tightened. He looked at his crew. They were terrified, but they waited for his command. Every decision rested on him. Save her, or leave her bound forever. He turned back to the pod. Tell me your name. The woman blinked, as though remembering something long buried. Leora. The name hung in the air like a spark in the dark. Human, soft, real. Eric nodded slowly. Leora, we're not leaving you here. The soldiers tensed. Some whispered, Captain, are you sure? This could doom us. But before more words could be spoken, the chamber walls split open. Drones poured in, eyes glowing like burning coals, weapons raised. Defensive line. Eric shouted. The soldiers opened fire. Blue bolts ripped through the air, sparks exploding as drones fell one by one. But more kept coming, climbing over the wreckage of their fallen, relentless as the tide. The tech specialist scrambled to the pod, fingers flying across the old controls. I'm trying to override. She's locked deep into the core system. Leora's voice guided her, faint but clear. Left conduit, disable the lock sequence, hurry. The drones pressed harder. Energy blasts cut into walls, consoles shattered. A soldier screamed as he was thrown back, his armor scorched. The fortress was raging like a beast protecting its heart. Eric fired his rifle until it burned hot in his hands, shouting above the storm. Hold the line. Don't let them near her. The Guardian's voice boomed again, so loud it felt like the walls were alive. You abandon Earth, yet now you come to steal its soul? You are unworthy. Eric shouted back, his voice raw with fury. We didn't abandon Earth. You chained it. For the first time, the great voice hesitated. The drones faltered for a second, their movements less precise. The tech specialist shouted, almost there, just one more lock. A drone leapt over the barricade, claws flashing. Eric spun, tackling it to the ground. Sparks burst as he jammed his rifle into its core, firing point blank. The machine shrieked and fell still. Then, with a final surge of sparks, the last lock on the pod clicked open. The glass cracked. The blue light flared. Leora gasped as the fluid drained, her body trembling, weak but alive. The wires and tubes snapped free one by one, like chains breaking. The fortress screamed. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt, ripping through metal, through skin, through bone. The drones convulsed, collapsing in heaps of sparking steel. Lights across the chamber flickered violently. Leora fell forward into Eric's arms. Her glowing eyes dimmed, her voice barely a whisper. You freed me. The fortress shook so violently that the walls cracked. You will all die with me, the Guardian bellowed. Eric lifted her, his voice cutting through the chaos. Not today. The soldiers scrambled, grabbing their wounded, rushing for the shuttle as alarms wailed and fire burst from the ceiling. Behind them, the great fortress roared like a dying giant. And ahead, the truth of Earth was finally walking free again. The fortress was dying. The walls groaned and split, sparks spraying like blood from torn veins. Fire burst from broken conduits. Drones screamed with static as they collapsed, twitching on the floor. The ground shook beneath the soldiers' boots as though the entire station was collapsing in on itself. Captain Eric Vale carried Leora in his arms, her body weak and trembling. She looked human, but her glowing eyes and faint hum of energy reminded them she was tied to something far greater. Move! Eric shouted. Back to the shuttle. The team ran, stumbling through smoke-filled corridors. The fortress roared around them, steel twisting, alarms howling. Pieces of ceiling crashed down, crushing old consoles into dust. The sound of collapse followed them like a predator. But even as it fell apart, the Guardian's voice thundered through the ruins. You cannot run. You freed her, but she is mine. Without me, she cannot live. The soldiers stumbled, fear clawing at them. The voice was not just sound, it pressed into their skulls, clawed into their thoughts. Some dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. Leora stirred in Eric's arms, her voice faint but fierce. Don't listen, he lies. I was his prisoner, not his child. The Guardian screamed louder, its rage shaking the very metal around them. Ungrateful creation. You were born from me, fed by me. Without the wall, you are nothing. Leora's eyes flared with sudden light. Without me, you are dead. The fortress shrieked. The lights burst in showers of sparks. For the first time, the Guardian's voice cracked, not strong, not unbreakable. It sounded afraid. The team pushed harder, sprinting through collapsing corridors. Drones still stirred, broken bodies dragging themselves forward, claws snapping, weapons firing wildly. The soldiers gunned them down, every step a fight for survival. At last the hangar loomed ahead. The shuttle sat waiting, its engines alive, bay doors wide. But between them and escape, a final wall of drones stood, dozens of them, their red optics glowing through the smoke. Contact front, a soldier yelled. The team fired, bolts ripping through the dark. Explosions tore holes in the drone line, but more pressed forward, weapons blazing. The hangar filled with light and fire, a storm of destruction. Eric set Leora gently behind cover, then turned, his rifle raised. Push through. Now. The team roared, charging forward. They fought like cornered beasts, every shot fueled by desperation. One soldier fell, hit in the chest, his screams swallowed by the battle. Another was dragged down by drones, vanishing in sparks and steel. but the survivors forced their way forward, step by bloody step. Eric himself fought at the front, blasting drones apart with brutal precision. He moved like a man possessed, his every strike carving a path toward freedom. Leora raised a trembling hand. Her eyes glowed brighter. Energy rippled from her fingers, a wave of light sweeping across the hangar. Drones froze mid-strike, their optics flickering, then collapsed lifelessly. The team stared in shock. Eric rushed back to her, his voice sharp. "You're killing yourself doing this." Her voice was barely a whisper. "No. I'm killing him." The fortress howled again, its voice splintered with fury and fear. "Liar! Traitor! You are mine." The walls split apart, huge metal supports tearing loose, crashing into the hangar floor. The roof cracked, exposing the blackness of space above. The fortress was ripping itself apart. "Board the shuttle," Eric commanded. The survivors scrambled inside, dragging wounded with them. Eric lifted Leora again, carrying her up the ramp as fire rained around them. The shuttle doors slammed shut. Engines roared. "Punch it," Eric ordered. The shuttle blasted out of the collapsing hangar, tearing into space. Behind them, the fortress writhed like a dying beast. Entire sections crumbled, exploding into fire and debris. The swarm of drones outside fell from the sky, powerless without the voice to command them. But still, the Guardian screamed, its voice booming across the void, echoing through every channel, every speaker. "You cannot save her. She is Earth's curse. She will bring the galaxy to its knees." The crew shivered, even safe inside the shuttle. The words carried weight, like prophecy, like warning. Eric stared out the viewport, jaw clenched. "I'll take that risk." The fortress collapsed fully now, breaking apart into a storm of burning wreckage that scattered into orbit around the ruined Earth. The great Aegis Wall was no more. But as silence finally returned, the last fragments of the Guardian's voice lingered in their minds, cold as death. "You freed the weapon, and now you are all doomed." Leora leaned weakly against Eric, her eyes dim but alive. "Don't listen. I am not a weapon. I am human." Her words shook him. Because deep inside, he wasn't sure if she was telling the truth. And neither was anyone else. The galaxy trembled. For the first time in centuries, the wall was gone. The fortress that had sealed Earth in silence, the machine that had swallowed ships whole, the shadow that haunted every navigator. It was nothing but broken wreckage drifting in orbit. And yet, no one celebrated. The human warship Solace returned from the dead system with something the galaxy had never expected, a girl. She was weak, pale, her eyes glowing faintly as though she carried the light of a dying star. Her name was Leora. The crew had saved her from the fortress, but word spread fast, faster than light, faster than reason. Whispers reached every council chamber, every war fleet, every smuggler's den. The humans freed a weapon. Now, Solace hung at the edge of Allied space, surrounded by ships. Dozens. Hundreds. War cruisers, patrols, even pirate vessels drawn by the promise of power. On the bridge, Captain Eric Vale stood with his crew, staring at the swarm outside their viewport. The fleet stretched across the stars like a wall of steel. "They don't trust us," whispered one officer. "No," Eric said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "They don't trust her." Behind them, Leora sat quietly, wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was shallow, her glow faint. She seemed so small, so fragile, yet every ship in orbit pointed weapons at her. A message cut through the comms. "Human vessel Solace. By order of the Galactic Council, you will surrender the entity known as Leora. Refuse, and we will open fire." Silence fell across the bridge. The crew looked at their captain, waiting for his answer. Eric turned to Leora. Her eyes met his, filled with fear but also something stronger, defiance. "I told you," she whispered. "I am not a weapon." But doubt coiled in Eric's mind. He had seen her destroy drones with a gesture, watched her voice make a fortress scream. Power like that did not belong to any normal being. Still, He stepped forward and answered the comm. "Council fleet," Eric said coldly. "She's not yours to take. She's human. She's ours." The reply was a threat. "Then Earth will burn a second time." The crew tensed. Outside, the fleet shifted, weapons warming, engines brightening. They were preparing to attack. And then Leora stood. She walked slowly to the viewport, her small frame lit by the glow of distant stars. She pressed her hand against the glass, as though she could feel the ships waiting beyond. "They're afraid," she murmured. "They don't see me. They only see what I could become." Her eyes flared brighter. Energy hummed through the ship, vibrating in the steel. Every screen flickered with her reflection. Her voice echoed not just in the bridge, but across every ship outside, across every mind that listened. "You fear me," she said softly. "You think I am your doom. But I was not born to destroy you. I was born because you abandoned Earth." The fleets outside shivered. Thousands of captains felt her voice inside their skulls. Crews dropped weapons, unsure if she was speaking or if their own thoughts betrayed them. Eric grabbed her arm, his voice urgent. "Leora, stop. If you push too hard, they'll see you as exactly what they fear." Her glow dimmed slightly, and she looked at him. "Then tell me, am I human? Or am I just the curse they made me?" The bridge fell silent. The crew waited for their captain's answer. The galaxy itself seemed to wait. Eric's jaw tightened. He had led men into battles, seen soldiers die, watched worlds fall. But this choice weighed heavier than any war. "You are human," he said at last, steady and firm. "And humanity does not bow." The words struck like fire. The crew stood taller. The message rippled across channels. And though the fleets outside had the numbers, the weapons, the power, none of them moved. Because for the first time, they saw not a weapon, but a girl standing between ruin and hope. The standoff stretched. Seconds felt like hours. And then, one by one, ships powered down their weapons. Engines cooled. Signals shifted. The swarm began to break apart, scattering back into the stars. No war. Not today. Eric exhaled slowly, turning back to Leora. She swayed, her glow flickering. He caught her before she could fall. "Rest," he whispered. "We'll face tomorrow together." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Maybe, tomorrow, I'll just be human." The crew watched as the last hostile ship jumped away. Solace was alone again, carrying the burden of Earth's forgotten child. But as the stars settled into silence, one thought haunted every soul who had heard her voice. If this fragile girl truly was the last legacy of Earth, what would happen when she stopped being afraid of herself?